battle section.
Broadcasting live on the UnitedWest.org AM radio network and simulcasting on DirecTV, iHeartRadio, Roku, and the World Wide Web, this is Enemies of the State with Tom Trento.
Hi, for those of you who are not music connoisseurs like me, that's Thunderjet by AC/DC. Great old song.
Whoa.
One of my favorite.
Thunderstruck.
Thunderstruck.
Mr.
One of
Four-
my favorite. They
Mr.
also did
Four
Thunderjet,
Seasons.
which was not released. Only a private release, private label. And but Thunderstruck was one of my favorite songs. I know all the lyrics. And
You just know the one word.
And where thunder should strike is on the Islamic State. That's where thunder should strike. Because
You want a little history about Thunderstruck? How the song was actually created? It was actually created by the lead singer, and he wrote it during a lightning storm, and he saw that, and he wrote the whole album in like less than a week. It was really a fantastic story.
oh, that's AC/DC?
AC/DC.
Yeah, I'm sure there were no drugs involved in that album whatsoever.
No, they weren't. They didn't do drugs.
They are an Australian band, by the way.
They
A
don't
lot of
have
people
drugs in
know.
Australia.
No drugs in Australia.
Yeah, no drugs in
And
Australia.
but cool music to open a show, that's for sure. But the thunder that should strike the Islamic State.
That's true.
Because in our ongoing exegetical study, big word, exegetical study. But for all of you who are Bible students, whether Jewish or Christian, and you've sat in some sort of Bible study, two ways to study the Bible. I could pick up the whole Bible. This is not the Bible, this thing. This is not the Bible. Now, what we could do is put
That's
graphics.
very far from the Bible.
We could put graphics with a big arrow. Not Bible, not Bible, not Bible. This is a make-believe Bible book.
It's an anti-Bible.
Anti-Bible book, ripped off the Hebrew and Jewish scriptures. But for those of you who have studied, I could do this. I could take this book and say, what is this book about? This book is about...
You're showing the Quran to the radio audience, by the way.
Yeah, this is the Quran. This book is about a false belief system by an individual who, according to scholars like Robert Spencer, may or may not even have lived, Muhammad, compelled himself on a journey of military escapades to simply reign supreme over people and use religion as a sort of a binding agent in all of that. And it's a book about death and destruction. That's a quick synopsis of this book. Or I could exegete this book. I could take one page and spend a week on it explaining the elements of the teaching of the doctrine. Well, the word exegete, and this is for the, now we're doing a little bit of a deep dive here, folks. The word exegete has the concept exit in it. Exodus, to read out. When you exegete something, you read out of whatever the thing is, and you let the listener or viewer understand what the word is saying, what the context is saying. When you do an exegetical study, you go in very, very deeply. Very simply, if we're going to talk about the Islamic State and their new magazine, Dabiq, we could say, oh, the Islamic State sucks and they all should die. There, one sentence.
There you go.
We've encapsulated the story of the Islamic State. But what we're doing, we're looking at their intelligence document called Dabiq, their magazine. We're going to show you a map in a second of the geography of Dabiq, why it's so important. And now we're doing this exegetical study. We're looking at the elements of context. When you read something, you have to ask yourself, who wrote it? When did they write it? Who did they write it to? Who's the audience they're writing it to? What were the events on the ground at the time? What is the intended purpose of the words being written? And when you do this sort of forensic analysis and this sort of study, you reach conclusions that are most probably very accurate because you're getting inside the head of the writer. And that's what we're doing. One of the failures of the American and Western intelligence agencies right now is a real failure, as we spoke about in part 2 recently, is Moon Tzu, the second cousin of Sun Tzu. Moon Tzu tells us to read very carefully what the other guy writes. And I'm quoting Moon Tzu. Read carefully what the other guy writes. It's very important. Moon Tzu takes things down a bit from his cousin Sun Tzu. He's not as erudite.
Yeah.
He gets to the point a little. I think he lived in New Jersey for a while. Moon Tzu did. So we're going into Dabiq. This is issue 1. Right now, historically, chronologically, the Islamic State has produced 7 editions of Dabiq, and you need to read them all.
Each one better than the next.
Yes. To Imam Abdullah,
Yes,
you're a
Tom.
Dabiq reader, I would think.
Oh, yes, it is my favorite online publication, bar none. Insight used to be Al-Qaeda's electronic magazine. I still do read it. It is very good, but this Dabiq is something
Dabiq,
special.
Yeah, I was surprised when they came out with that section on women's underwear, advertisement section. I didn't think anything like that would be in this magazine. You saw that part, right?
I did not. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay. Well, they're starting to advertise. I mean, they're getting hip and they're starting to do advertisement. They had Muslim women's underwear advertising.
Wait a second. Are you telling me Dabiq gets advertisers and you don't?
That probably is the state of affairs around here. Who's going to advertise with us? Who in their right mind would say, I want to associate with those guys and give them money and fund them to keep them going? That'll make my life very enjoyable.
Yes.
Yeah, can you see like the neighborhood dry cleaner sponsoring that? How long till that place gets torched?
We should go out and sell advertising. What kind of show you do? Oh, we do a peace and love and happy. You know, everybody's one. We are the. We call it We Are the World.
We Are the World is.
Yeah. Oh, I'll buy some advertising. Okay, and then yeah.
Then their shop gets burned down 3 days later.
That's all. Now, there's not people that they may not like us, but they don't bother us. They know that we have dogs. We have dogs that sit on cops.
They sit on other things.
They sit on other things. All right, well, let's continue with our study of Dabiq. And Imam Abdullah is busy now rummaging through the 7 editions looking for the women's underwear section.
No, I am not.
Okay.
See it.
I am intently listening to you. I am here for your assistance if you have any questions, Tom.
Well,
What did you think about his analysis of the Quran there, Imam Abdullah?
Yeah, I kind of blew it right off.
Yeah.
You did not do very much analysis of the Quran. I just do not. I'm a little offended that you call it a fake Bible, but
That's okay.
it's okay. I can lop your head off later.
Look, if you want to believe that which is untrue, then untrue you shall believe. You know, no big deal. Moon Tzu, section 2,
Moon
page
Tzu,
1.
that guy right there.
Yeah. I got to tell you what, Imam Abdullah, when you look at this Dabiq magazine, the graphics are astonishing. I mean, whoever's putting this thing together knows how to communicate visually.
Yes, they're very good.
On page 1,
Much better than your sorry stuff.
on page 1 of edition 1 in year 1435H, Ramadan, which was last summer, this came out. Yeah. It's entitled The Return of the Khalifa. And this is critically important from an intelligence point of view. We walked through it, and we said that initially the writers put out a little newsletter. It got such rave reviews in the Muslim world, in the Ummah, that they said, we need a magazine and we need to kick the hiney of Insight, Al-Qaeda, our little stupid cousins, and we need a bigger one. So they recruited some graphic artists, some writers that know English and know a little bit about layout. This is kind of hip layout.
Yes, let me tell you, it has been phenomenal recruitment tool, this magazine.
Yeah, people from all over the world.
They start out on page 4. They start out calling it the Khalifa. Then they say it's declared. On page 6, the Khalifa is declared. So there was a point certain. First important takeaway. There was a date certain where someone with some authority in Sunni Islam said, I am declaring the new caliphate started. And, when you think about this, we made this point on the previous part, it's got to start somewhere. And a lot of people think these kind of things, a new movement, starts magically somehow in some grandiose way. No, I mean, it could start as simply as somebody saying, I got an idea about,
I have a
freedom
dream.
from England. Yeah, I have a dream.
Like this guy.
Yeah.
They started it, like that guy.
With his Rolex watch.
That's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. He is the reigning caliphate right now, caliph for the caliphate, the movement, the ummah. And he's based in Damascus for the most part, but I don't think he sleeps in the same place every night. I think he kind of moves around.
Yep.
He does have a target on
Dodging
him.
smart bombs.
Yeah, and
Who moves around more, him or Gert Wilders?
And right now, the era has arrived, and I'll pick up right there on page 8. A new era has arrived in the magazine. Now, we're going to show you Dabiq, the section of the world that Dabiq is in. It has eschatological or end-time significance. It's a real city, real place, real people today, moving, living, breathing, doing stuff. But it's going to play a big role in the end of the world, and that's why it's so important. Right now, the Islamic world, the Islamic State, is building a state. They are creating currency. They are building schools and churches and housing and social care and all of that. They're following the proscriptions of doctrine, of Quranic doctrine, of the Hadith, of the Sunnah. They're trying to relive the 7th century perfectly. That's what they're doing.
They're doing a very good job of it.
Very, very exciting. One of the problems of the 20th century is the disrespect for Muslims worldwide. Now,
Whoa.
I'm going to ask you, Imam Abdullah, up until you guys found black gold, you were sand jockeys, you were all these derogatory things.
were
You're living
camel
in desert,
jockeys.
camel jockeys, whatever.
You do not ride sand, silly man. That is why we're so much more...
Whatever you guys are, you really had... I won't grant your golden era of Andusala in Spain. I wouldn't even grant that, but let's say I did. Let's say you had a wonderful past 1,000 years ago. For the past 1,000 years, you guys really haven't been on the A list of
What are you
anything,
talking about?
okay?
We discover America.
Well, other than discovering America, you guys have not been on anybody's A list anywhere in the world until you found black gold.
Yes.
Why are Muslims so disrespected and denigrated worldwide?
Islamophobia?
Okay, that's a good point.
Yes, that would be
I-
my
I-
best
I
guess.
think- I think
It
you
is
threw the
because
trump
of the
card down.
racist and white man and the colonialistic ways of the Europeans.
All right, what about before America even existed? Nobody really liked you either then.
That is because
There was Islamophobia been around for a long time.
when the Muslim go to conquer Europe, some of you were not very willing to submit, and we were forced to lop some heads off. And apparently you have held some of you Europeans have held a grudge for a while over this.
You got a bad rap. You got a bad rap.
Yes, it is ridiculous.
All right, now when you did find the black gold in the turn of the century or so, and you needed Western technology to actually get it out of the ground so you can make money and buy Rolls Royces and then gold plate your Rolls Royces, that didn't help too much with your public relations worldwide. So even more comedy and parody about big fat Saudi princes, all of that. And for generations, Muslims worldwide, particularly in the eyes of the West, were viewed as, felt insignificant. Now, all of a sudden, on page 8, right here in Dabiq, a new era has arrived, words in the magazine, of might and dignity for the Muslims.
Takbir!
Very, very important
Yeah.
point. The generations past, Muslims have not felt might and have not felt dignity. Now, every human being desires to be strong, have might, and have dignity. Dignity is very important.
Honor.
Yeah, a very important psychological and emotional concept. And you're not a race. Why does everybody say, oh, the race of...
Because it is very helpful when we would like to used a victimhood status. We like to accuse people of being racist.
Racist,
because one says no one likes to be called a racist in your society, and it stigmatizes them.
That's a good
so
point.
we
But
use it offensively.
All right, but I'll just use your words, the Ummah. Your family, your group of believers haven't had the dignity status that they prefer.
Right.
Well, playing against that, and you got to understand, this intelligence document we're looking at, which is a published magazine, reveals key elements to its intended audience, two audiences, Muslims and the West. To the West, strike fear in their hearts. To the Muslims, be a magnet, if you will. Be a clarion. Call the Muslim Ummah men and women to fight with the Islamic State, live in the Islamic State, do jihad, serve Allah, die in Allah's cause, follow the Quran, be a good guy, have dignity. That's the call.
And to highlight what you're saying, Tom, is this whole system is based upon honor. It's based upon respect. It's their currency, if you will. They have take our money, our value systems, our way of making ourselves worth, whether it's through God or through money or through military or through putting however we determine our honor or our self-worth. Their self-worth is primarily determined by their respect by others. Other people determine their honor. So therefore, to bring honor to the society, bring honor to the culture is of primary importance. Almost like it's honor to them is worth more than $1 million.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I can use that $1 million to buy weapons to defeat you to gain my honor.
Yes.
There you go.
And also, that's the reason they cover their women, is to protect their honor, because if their women have illicit sex or have sex with other tribes, it disrespects the family, it dishonors the family, therefore the women must be killed. It's the same concept throughout the whole system. You just have to replace that honor system with money, and that the whole culture starts to make a lot more sense. And that's the reason in this Dabiq article, like Tom's trying to highlight, where it says restoring dignity to the society is of paramount importance. This is who they're talking to. They're talking to their tribes who their primarily determination of self-worth is honor.
And there's a catch-22 here that's very important that you're hitting on, Mark. There's institutional dignity and personal dignity.
Right.
And I happen to be of Italian descent.
Hey, me too.
My family is from Italy, Sicily, and institutionally, that's my nationality. And there's a certain amount of dignity that I derive from the history of Italy, all of that. But in terms of a comparison of dignity institutionally and personally, the whole Italian thing is really a very small part of who I am. I have an obligation to function as a human being, and if I do that properly, then dignity will be a byproduct of that. I happen to be persuaded to be a Christian, which helps tremendously if you live a Christian life, to live a dignified life. But there's a personal, where you're alone in the world, you have to establish your own basis and perception and recognition of dignity. Unlike Islam, which downplays and minimizes the individual.
Right.
Everything is the
Public.
ummah, the institution.
The public, right.
If the institution sucks, Islam sucks, is what we're saying, as a coherent Weltanschauung, a coherent worldview, then you're never going to derive personal dignity from an institution that can't provide any dignity. That's the catch-22. What do? It's this dilemma, this psychotic dilemma that Muslims have, which is they're told and trained and schooled in the fact that they are supreme. Muslims and Islam is supreme.
And
Yes.
And
But
everybody
nobody
else
believes it, and nobody views it and recognizes it. So you got this kid, he's got this, drummed into his head, you're supreme, you're better, you're a Muslim. And he goes down, everybody goes, you're just a jerk, is what you are.
Right. You abuse women. You can't function in society. You can't hold down a decent job. And everywhere you go, you bring, destruction. And there's always a blame factor to all this, where it's somebody else's fault all the time.
Of course.
You can never take responsibility for your actions, and that's the other main important thing about this ideology.
Now, what do you do? What do you do if you're a 22-year-old Muslim? You managed to leave. I don't know
which is middle age right now in Syria. 22 would be middle age.
Let's use Syria. You're 22 years old. You managed to get out of Syria before 2011. You came over. You're attending school at University of, I don't know, South Florida. You're in the Muslim Student Association, and you're looking at the fact that Islam is the supreme institutional dignified system. Who the hell believes that anywhere in the United States?
Oh, well, you have some of the self-hating Jews believe this. You have some of the Presbyterian Church believe this. Our interfaith has helped us spread this message. And now you have some of the people in your very own country starting to believe this nonsense.
Well, let me ask you this, Abdullah. I would have, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would have bought more what you're saying, that dopey segments of the American population actually believe that Islam is some dignified supreme thing. My feeling now, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you guys have blown your PR so badly by televising, chopping each other's heads off. Doesn't do well for the dignified concept of Islam, that even the dopey leftist Christians and Jews are going, they're going, well, that's not you. You're peaceful. But I don't hear many people saying, Islam is a fabulous, wonderful religion.
Yes, look no further than the man on your desk, Tom.
Okay, I stand corrected. That's a very, very good point.
Yes, you're right in some ways. Some members of society are starting to see that there is a little bit of a, shall we say, propensity for violence.
Bill Maher, one of them.
Yes.
In a very undignified manner. But we're camping on this concept of dignity, folks, because if you want to defeat Islamic Jihad, if you want to understand the enemy, you have to understand at the root of the desire to become a destructive fighting force is the lack of institutional dignity. So if we were, the three of us here, if we were a propaganda team for the Islamic State, and we said, how do we address this internal problem within virile men, male Muslims? How do we exploit that for our good, for our own good? They would have written this magazine, and they're gonna write this section I'm gonna read to you right now. It's beautiful.
This magazine is almost identical copy of Quranic ideology and Quranic theology, and it is perfectly insane.
Of course, it is produced by the Islamic State.
And they're hitting on page, I think there's 26 pages in the first edition. On page 8, they do some preliminary introductory remarks. Now they start getting into the meat. Listen, a new era has arrived. I'm reading from Dabiq, page 8. Also, if you guys can somehow put up, if possible, with our production team here, a place that our readers, because they read this stuff, our listeners and our viewers can actually go, because they're going to want to read this stuff. Where do they find Dabiq? If we can put a link maybe on our website or maybe on the thing here.
You can actually do that in annotation.
A simple one. All right. A new era has arrived of might and dignity for the Muslims. Now, listen carefully. I'm reading. Amrel Mumim said, that's a Muslim name, soon, by Allah's permission, a day will come when the Muslim will walk everywhere as a master. Remember I said reign supreme? Will walk not as a dignified human being, not as in the Christian world, not as a servant of God, not as a respectable family man, as a master, having honor, being revered with his head raised high and dignity preserved. I got to read this again. This is so critically important.
I love it.
Soon, by Allah's permission, a day will come when the Muslim will walk everywhere as a master, having honor, being revered with his head raised high and his dignity preserved.
Inshallah.
Everything that's missing, Dabiq magazine in the Islamic State says, we can deliver to you, O Muslim men, Anyone who dares to offend him, the Muslim, will be disciplined. How? And any hand that reaches harm will be
Cut off.
cut off. Whoever was heedless must now be alert. Whoever was sleeping must now be awake, and whoever was shocked and amazed must comprehend. The Muslims today have a loud, thundering statement and possess heavy boots.
Better to stump your head.
The Muslims have a loud and thundering, hey, that goes with the opening of our show, thundering statement and possess heavy boots. Man, this is tough talk. If I'm a 22-year-old schmuck, I left Syria, dirtbag country, I'm in some school somewhere, and I'm going, I don't really fit in with a lot of these people here. I'm a master, and they don't believe it. Now I read, I'll give you thundering boots and heavy feet and strong words, and they have a statement to make that will cause the world to hear and understand the meaning of terrorism, and boots that will trample the idol of nationalism, destroy the idol of democracy, and uncover its deviant nature.
Takbir!
Man, this is well written.
Oh, phenomenal.
That is 25, 30 words. That is the mission statement of the Islamic State. I'll read it carefully. They, Muslims, have a statement to make. So what this means, I'm doing exegetical work right now, folks. Muslims have a statement to make. What the authors of Dabiq are saying is, you, O Muslim man, you have something to say. You no longer walk around in an existential daze. You no longer try to figure out who you are. You have something to say. And it's not a question. You're not going around questioning people. You're going to make a statement. It's going to be a strong, a proud, a brave, a powerful statement. I'm reading. They have a statement to make that will cause the world to hear and understand the meaning of love.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Wrong
Yes.
word. Terrorism. I mixed up terrorism and love. I'm reading again. They have a statement. You, Muslim, have a statement to make that will cause the world to hear and understand the meaning of terrorism.
Yes.
What is this? Is this a terrorism magazine?
Yes.
It's a freedom fighters magazine. We're fighting for freedom, Tom.
It's teaching the ideology.
Freedom from the oppression of the colonials.
I mean, how many more dots do you have to connect? They're chopping off heads. They're using the Islamic ideology. They call themselves the Islamic State, and they're taking it right out of the Quran, Hadith, and everything else. This is nothing. This is not rocket science, guys.
Speaking of rocket science, look at the picture right under where I'm reading on page 8. What is it?
It is a very large rocket.
It's a rocket. Now,
It's about 40 feet long.
I'm going to read this mission statement again because it's so important. That Muslims have a statement to make that will cause the world to hear, understand the meaning of terrorism. Terrorism is front and center as a methodology of establishing the supremacy of the Islamic State. Don't get that wrong, folks. And boots that will trample the idol of nationalism. What does that mean, and who is that to?
That is to all these ridiculous Pico Sykes lines drawn in the sand, creating these false countries after World War I. It is ridiculous. We want the Ummah.
This is the internal jihad. This is phase 1 of the mission of the Islamic State. They have to clean house first, and it only makes sense. If you're going to develop a sophisticated fighting force, you got to put everybody through boot camp. If you've been in the military, you go through boot camp and extra training and all of that. The Islamic State is putting the Ummah, the Muslims, through boot camp by purifying the jihadi warrior, which
Right.
means nationalism doesn't exist. Why is there no nation states anymore from the Islamic State's point of view?
Because you need a caliphate. The caliphate does not care about these silly little lines. It is one giant
Islamic
caliphate.
State. There's no Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Iran, none of that stuff anymore.
Like this.
The
Like this.
There it is. That's a perfect illustration on our screen. We're showing.
Oh, now
what,
it's a perfect illustration. The other day, it was crayon
No, that was
drawn.
a different map.
All right, so the boots, the Muslim boots, in the mission statement on page 8 of the first edition of Dabiq, the boots will trample the idol of nationalism. That's now justifying attacks against the Saudis, attacks against Jordan, attacks against anyone standing in the way of the Islamic State's mission.
Don't forget the Zionist entity.
That comes next. Look what comes next in the statement. And the Muslim will destroy the idol of democracy.
Yes.
So first they clean house nationalistically, get rid of all the phony baloney.
Get
Muslim
rid of the
states.
filthy heretical Shia and get rid of the Sunnis that are not ready to sign up 100%.
Now when we have this, this force multiplier, this tipping point of saturation of Muslim jihadis that control territory, now we go after democracy and uncover its deviant nature. Why is it deviant?
Because it's 180 degrees opposite of Islam. It is, as you know, Sayyid Qutb called it. You know, it is Jilali. It is heretical. It is everything against the Islamic State. There is no freedom in Islam. Islam has zero freedom, has zero separation of church and state.
Damon, you with us here?
I'm here.
All right, look up the word democracy. Just grab a...
There's no voting in Islam.
Yeah,
Well, first of all, let me say that democracy consists of man-made law. And,
Yes, exactly.
and Sharia Islamia does not care one lick of your man-made laws.
Yeah, any organized entity, whether you're starting a business and you have to have articles and policies, or if you're starting a family, the mother and father have to say, what are the rules by which we raise our kids? You've got to come up with some sort of written plan by which to organize your family. Obviously, a state has to do that, and the Islamic State has to figure out what its rules are. Well, if they're a 7th century replication of Muhammad, if that's what they're doing, then they're going to replicate the rules from the 7th century from Islam. Who gives the rules? Where do the rules come from?
Well, it doesn't come from democracy, because if you look at what democracy says, it says democracy, and this is a dictionary.com definition: government by the people, a form of government in which supreme power is vested in the people.
Yeah! In the what?
In the people. Where the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised directly by them or by their elected agents under a free electoral system.
Haram. Haram.
You cannot do this in Islam. You cannot have freedom. That's the reason when we've been saying for years and years and years, you cannot have democracy and Islam together. They are oil and water. They do not mix. There is no freedom in Islam.
No, this is such an important point, folks. And the big idea in our teaching of Dabiq today is when you hear myself, Tom Trento, or Mark, or Damon, or anybody at the United West, or Gaffney, or Claire Lopez, anyone out there, make the statement that Islam and democracy are incompatible. And then somebody calls us, a hater. We are factually correct. We are academically correct. We're forensically correct. We're logically correct in that statement, simply because we understand the doctrines of Islam. That's their position. One of the individuals that we have on our show on occasion is Anjem Chowdhury, who's a actually very sophisticated Muslim from London, Pakistani Muslim from London.
Fantastic man.
And he's very, very honest in what he says. And people don't like him because of his honesty. And he'll tell you he wants to join the Islamic State, and we've had conversations, and if I insult his prophet, he says the state has to kill me, all of this. But he will tell you, not just tell you, he will tell you and explain to you from Islamic doctrine in a foolproof manner, notwithstanding Nihad Awad and all the phony baloney make-believe Muslims in Washington, make-believe real Muslims. They're kind of Armani Muslims. Anjem Chowdhury will tell you, chapter and verse, here's where Islam says, it's impossible, Tom. How could Islam be democratic when Islam says the law comes from Allah, case closed? Allah spoke through Gabriel to Muhammad, who didn't even know how to write, wrote it down. What do we need people to try to figure out what the law is?
And
we have a direct transference from Allah to us. How do we as a good Muslim get around that?
You can't. Sharia is the law. Sharia and Islam are one and the same. You cannot have Sharia. You cannot have Islam without Sharia, and you cannot have Sharia without Islam. The whole point of democracy in the Muslim mind is to vote in Sharia and Islamic law. That is the only point.
It. Yeah, It's like take the train to the city, then blow up the train. You know? Yeah, exactly. And this is a very, very important point. We like to at least leave one big idea with you every one of our sessions like this, our shows. The big idea today is that Islam and democracy cannot ever work together. One system has to prevail. So how are we struggling right now to do that? Well, in Israel, there's the struggle is the Islamic world's trying to gain a vote to vote the Jews out, vote democracy out, or vote Sharia in.
Yeah.
Which could be pretty easy with a small little nation. Yes.
We are filming this show on March 17th, just so people know. Today is Florida Muslim Capital Day, and one of the organizers of the event, Ahmed Badir, the terrorist up in Tampa, 1010 WHFS land, I have him on tape last year saying, the better a Muslim I am, the better a citizen I am.
Right.
The better a Muslim, and I would love this discussion we're having right now about them being incompatible is something diametrically opposed to that statement by Ahmed Badir said on the steps of our Capitol building in Tallahassee, Florida.
I would love to have a reverse debate on that.
Absolutely.
Which he would not do. I'll argue the Islamic side. He can argue the Democratic side, okay? I'll argue as a Muslim against the Muslim who's defending democracy as being consistent with Islam.
Can I tell you, I believe this, he just says that for the forked tongue, he says this with forked tongue, he does not really believe it, but he says it for political influence.
Every time a democracy has appeared in Islam, a theocratic state has occurred. Recently, Egypt. Look at Iran. Look at Iraq. Look at every possible scenario you can have. It's the one vote, one time. That's it.
It's like giving a brand new a 4-year-old keys to a brand new Ferrari. What is a 4-year-old going to do with a brand new Ferrari?
Yeah.
And and in the early days of the war in Iraq, all of that, I was very hopeful that the spirit of democracy, and we understand the difference between democracy and republicanism, being a republic, the concept of a republic where the vote is through elected representatives. We understand that. We're using democracy in a general term. I was hopeful that, particularly in Iraq, where they came out of the brutal boot of a theocratic dictator, who was very secular in many respects, but rooted everything in Islam. He was the leader of an Islamic State and did Muhammad well.
There was your first Sunni Shia battle for 8 years in the 80s.
I was hopeful that the Iraqis, when they were given a chance to breathe democratic freedom, to understand voting, and all of that we brought in, that they, again, it's not 1742 where you don't have a television set or a radio. It's 2003. iPhone, there were cell phones and technology and all of this. You can see the world. You can understand the West. It's not hard. I was very hopeful that they would embrace and want some, maybe not Jeffersonian democracy, but something that led to freedom and justice and equality. Nope. They had to put in their constitution the Sharia.
Yes.
Right.
They had to put that in.
Once you've done that, you lock it in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the same exact problem and scenario happened after World War II. After World War II, we had a huge problem. The Nazis didn't go away overnight in Germany. They had to get rid of them systematically over time. That's the reason they installed a republic form of government. Also in Japan, they had the same exact problem. You can't go from one totally dominated ideology, which is totalitarian, and teaching teaching that Jews should be exterminated. That is systematic inside the culture. And once you have that in place and locked in through the educational system, you don't flip that switch and turn it off overnight with democracy.
Takes generations.
Takes time.
Going back to where you said they got their taste of freedom and you were hoping they'd latch onto it. If you look at pictures from Cairo, Egypt, from Tehran, back in the late 50s and 60s, you could have said it's in New York City, and you would have said, okay.
Pipes and shorts and everything.
Yeah,
sure,
everything.
Yeah.
They dressed the same as they did in Paris and New York and in Madrid. They looked the same. It's not until the teachings of Hassan al-Banna and the Ayatollahs of Iran came to power that these societies dramatically regressed away from personal freedom.
And think of it, because it's such a male-dominated culture, and terrorism and strength and brutality are calling cards of Islam, doesn't take much to take those folks that are experiencing a little bit of Western freedom to corral them back and go, okay, you had your little bit of fun, get back over there. You just got to slice and dice a few of them.
Yeah, a couple public hangings, and everyone seems to change their attitudes pretty quick.
They're back in the corral. You're back in a strong-arm Islamic theocracy. Now, watch this, and it is 46 minutes after the hour. We're looking at the magazine Dabiq. Dabiq is a city in northwestern Syria that's part of the end-time scenario named. This first edition we're looking at is announcing the new caliphate, the establishment of the Islamic State has occurred. The leader is there. The missions, we're looking at the mission statement, and we just said that there's going to be an internal jihad, according to their initial statement, to defeat all the Muslims that don't get on board with the program, then move to defeat democracy. And if you think of it from a military strategic point of view, you've got to take the easy stuff first. You defeat your own people that aren't with you. Then you build this fighting force. Then you go for the bad guys, the ones who believe in democracy.
Also similar to Nazi Germany, where they exterminated their own weaker citizens before going on rampage across
Now
Europe.
on page 8, a new era has arrived. Listen to the other statement on that page. And we're just looking at this little mission statement today. Sheikh Abu Mohammed al-Adani said, and these are... Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is the caliph. He's the top dog. But he has a ruling team that are Islamic scholars. And these statements are coming from his team that are highly respected. Sheikh Abu Muhammad al-Adani said, "The time has come for those generations that were drowning in the oceans of disgrace, being nursed on the milk of humiliation and being ruled by the vilest of people. After their long slumber in the darkness of neglect, the time has come for them to rise."
Takbir!
Man, you're that sad situation of a 22-year-old out of Syria. You've been raised in a destabilized society, in a dysfunctional family. All your cousins are married to each other. You're not allowed to even look at women, let alone date them. They're setting you up with some ugly chick who's a relative of some tribal leader.
But you don't really know that until you've married her.
It's like you want to study to become, you want to be a football player. You want to play soccer, and they go, no, you study, get in there and bang your head on the ground. You're this thing. It's just a horrible life. And then you hear this guy, and they're all dressed in their black fighting robes. They got AKs. They got the thing. They got the trimmed, untrimmed big beards with no mustache. Perfect look that Muhammad made. I got to tell you guys, I watched him, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. I watched his sermon the other day from Mosul. Guess what I saw?
A $10,000 watch on his wrist.
Here's what I saw. It was done in parts. He spoke, then he sat down, and they kept the camera on him when he was sitting down on a side profile. Here's what I saw. You can put this right there. It doesn't matter. Here's what I saw. Everybody watching?
What's that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, he started doing that? He started cleaning his teeth.
He's sitting in the front of thousands of people, takes a Mizwax stick out, and starts cleaning his teeth. Unbelievable. Now, what does that mean? Again, this is information, that's intelligence, actually. Mohammed used, and we did a little video on this. Alan did a phenomenal video.
Looking it
Alan
up right
Corman.
now.
He did a phenomenal video on a Muslim leader, the head of
Care.
anti-Islamophobia, whatever, for CARE out of Tampa. At an event, Alan videotaped Hassan Miswa, whatever his name is, with a Mizwax stick cleaning his teeth.
He was going off.
You're going to see it in a second. And if you go to al-Baghdadi's video and go through it quickly, you'll see him do it. Al-Baghdadi did it. What does this mean? It simply means that Muhammad used a mizwak, a certain type of tree, certain type of wood, to clean his teeth. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, in his initial sermon establishing the caliphate, took that stick and rubbed his teeth in front of everybody and said, "Damn it, don't you ever miss the fact that I am the head of this operation." That's what he did. He went back in time. Now, Sheikh Abu Muhammad al-Danani says, the time has come for the Ummah of Muhammad to wake up from its sleep, remove the garments of dishonor, shake off the dust of humiliation and disgrace, for the era of lamenting and moaning has gone and the dawn of honor has emerged anew. The son of, oh man, this is crazy. This symbolism is amazing. Listen to the concluding paragraph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs essentially make up the declaration of a new era has arrived. I'm viewing this as their mission statement. Listen to the concluding paragraph, which is 3 sentences. The sun, S-U-N, the sun of jihad has risen. The glad tidings of good are shining. Triumph looms on the horizon. The signs of victory have appeared.
Takbir!
Man, that is amazing symbolism and symmetry in its language. The sun, S-U-N, of jihad has risen. What does that mean? The sun of jihad has risen.
It is a new day. It is time for the fighting. It is time for the aggressive, offensive jihad. And we will take back what was once ours, and we will take what was never ours and make it ours.
These freaks are so heavily into propaganda in this magazine that on page, let me find the page here. It's very interesting what they do. Keeping that in mind, the sun of jihad has risen.
Okay, how about a little Mizwax stick while you're looking that up?
Let's check that out. What is it? What are you looking at?
This is the Mizwax stick of the CARE leadership.
Muaz Hassan.
Islamophobia director.
There he is. He's
Hassan
going off. Radio
crazy.
audience. The guy sticks a stick in his mouth, and he uses it somewhere between, I would say, like a toothbrush and a toothpick. But it's like a tree branch.
It's a tree branch.
He looks like. Well, what's it? An otter or a beaver? What are the ones that eat the wood?
Yeah, beavers.
The beavers eat the wood. Yeah. The guy looks like a cracked out beaver.
He's Sharia compliant, man.
He's going off.
All right, so what we have right now, 54 minutes after the hour, and as we said earlier, today we're pre-recording this. It's St. Patrick's Day, top of the morning to you.
Top of the morning to you, Trento.
Check that graphic, will you please, where a study has been done of where the fighters are coming from various countries going to Syria to fight. See if anybody comes from the grand old land of Ireland, from Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody
man,
from Ireland
everywhere.
fighting for the Islamic State?
Oh, yeah.
We just today, on the 17th of March.
Only 30 of them.
You're kidding me.
Only 30.
Oh, man. We just today, on the 17th of March, that's when we're taping this show, snagged a Air Force member of the United States Air Force. I think he may have been out. He was on his way to Syria to fight with the Islamic State military, U.S. military guy. So
thank
this
you
is what
very
we're talking
much.
about.
See?
What I was looking for in this edition of Dabiq, they don't have it, but these freaks go so far as to construct their visual propaganda. They lay out all that language we're talking about. A new sun has arisen on jihad. Glad tidings are coming. All of this, and they make the war fighting. War is very, very bad.
Speak for yourself. We love it.
They make war fighting this melodramatic, romantic experience where you read in, 1001 Arabian Nights or the sheikhs of the Middle Ages and the Crusade battles and all this. And these are people getting swords stuck in their eyes, and they're walking around with poles sticking out of their eyes, and half their intestines are falling out, and animals are eating them. And not very romantic or nice war fighting. But they go so far.
Yes, but you go to paradise.
You go to paradise, yeah. They go so far in their visual propaganda that they're now starting to take their dead jihadi soldiers who have been blasted by shrapnel or whatever, the faces are all cut up, and they lay them in the casket. You got to bury Muslims the next day, within 24 hours. They lay them in the casket with a white cloth all around them, clean their face up, and then they put a smile on their face.
Yes.
They actually,
because they're having sex up in paradise.
and they tell the young guys that he is having sex right now in paradise with his virgins because he earned it through jihad. And it's so powerful and so wonderful that even his body that no longer holds his essence is experiencing the wonderful feeling of this.
Yes.
With an eternal heart on.
You Muslim guys, you believe this stuff? Do you really believe this?
Yes, of course.
You do? Yeah. I don't know.
Of course.
I don't know. I don't know what I
It makes it
believe.
so very easy to recruit, Tom. Like I said, you take magazines like this, and like the Al-Qaeda Insight, and you take the Quran, and you take the charismatic leaders, and it makes recruiting for the Islamic State easier than taking candy from a baby.
Now watch how logically accurate you are, what you just laid out. In the magazine Dabiq, and we're in the first edition.
And we will be for months to come.
And there's only 7 of them, and we're all the way on page 9 now.
We just finished
to page 9. After the establishment of the mission statement, saying that we have lived a degraded life of humility and disgrace.
Shame and dishonor.
Shame and dishonor. Now, the Islamic State has changed the paradigm for you, and you are going to be among the masters, among the leaders, among the best. Look at the next section. Now they say, the task before us on page 9, 10 actually, now you're in the club, young Muslim boy, young Muslim men, older Muslim men, young Muslim women. Now you're in the club. The world, though, is divided into 2 camps. And look at that page. It's beautiful. The world is divided into 2 camps. There's a call to hijrah and a call to all Muslims, doctors, engineers, scholars, and specialists. We'll pick up on this on the next edition. But simply stated, it makes all the sense in the world if you understand Islamic doctrine, that there are those who have accepted Allah and called Muhammad as the only prophet. You are a Muslim at that point. And then there's everyone else, okay? And everyone else is in trouble.
And Dar al-Islam.
I mean, it's right out of Milestones of Sayyid Qutb.
That's the division in the world. They established that's the way the world is. Now you, who just read this magazine and want to be part of it, a call to hijrah. You now must come to Syria. You go, what? Look, we gave you the truth. We told you the state of the world. We are here dealing with it. You need to travel. Hijra means to travel. You need to travel to where we are fighting. And not just the crazy Muslim people they're going to put bombs on. But on that page it says doctors and engineers and lawyers and nurses, the elite of society. Dangerous stuff will pick up with the next session on Dabiq in a very near future. Take it easy.